This video is going to be very important if you want to accumulate Bitcoin, because yes, WYCKOFF is back and we're going to find out, are we going to see a massive WYCKOFF accumulation pattern on the weekly chart for Bitcoin, and who was WYCKOFF and what is this accumulation phase and how can we profit from this move, and is it maybe the playbook of the whales? Guys, we're going to find out even more, and we're also going to look at the price movement of Bitcoin, because yes, we broke out from the CPI release and we pumped towards the upside. So is this just a failed move equals a fast move in the opposite direction? Guys, we're going to find out all of that in today's video. So if you want to find out more, watch the video until the end, smash up the like button and subscribe, and most importantly, activate the bell so that you always stay up to date. And yes guys, we're going to start on the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin, because we saw this break towards the upside after the CPI release and we came all the way back up to the levels of $22,600 where we have this major resistance box. And guys, at the moment we are getting some major resistance, but first we're going to draw a trend line all the way from the top, and then we can see yes, we broke out from this trend line exactly at these levels of 22,222, but at the moment we can see yes, we have got this resistance box and also the 100 moving average on the 4-hour chart. So first of all, we're going to find out what is the overall trend for Bitcoin, and yes, we've reached a high exactly here, and we can see before we had higher lows for Bitcoin and also higher highs, but then we could see yes, we still formed a higher low, but yes, we formed a lower high for Bitcoin and then eventually also a lower low for Bitcoin. And at the moment we can see that yes, we didn't break this area yet, so that we could say we have a higher high for Bitcoin and that we're going to continue even higher, because at the moment we ran into this major resistance. So now we're going to draw a Fibonacci retracement level all the way from the top towards the bottom from the swing low, and then we can see at the moment we are battling in between the 38.2 and the 50% level. So we could see that our next price target, if we're going to break this resistance box, would be the 61.8, round about the level of $23,100. But if we're going to turn around in these regions, and yes, then we would form a lower high for Bitcoin, and this would still be bearish guys. But to really say that we're going to see a higher price movement, Bitcoin really has to break these levels of the $23,400 level and form a higher high for Bitcoin, so that we can say that yes, this trend has turned around and that we're going to see a higher price movement from these regions. And guys, if you want to buy crypto on the spot market or trade it on a leverage, go down in the video description below and sign up with my BITGET link, where you receive a massive deposit bonus of $5,000. But yes guys, we really have to see if Bitcoin will break this major resistance box round about the levels of $22,700, because then we could expect that this was a failed move equals a fast move in the opposite direction, and we could come all the way back down. And if we're going to break these levels of 21,750, we could expect that yes, that Bitcoin will dump even lower, and that we are maybe also going to break this downward sloping trend, this very important trend line, which is round about the psychological level of $21,000, to come all the way back down to fill this CME gap, which comes all the way down to the levels of $20,000. So we could really see that this was a failed move and that Bitcoin will come all the way back down. But yes guys, this is what we can see in the immediate short term. If we're going to break this support box, we could expect that Bitcoin will at least come up to the 78.6, round about the levels of $23,600, where we can also see that we got some major resistance in these areas. But guys, if Bitcoin will turn around in these regions, we could expect that we are at least going to retest these bottoms round about the levels of $21,300. But guys, now we're going to come to the most important part. Yes, we're going to find out, are we going to see this massive WYCKOFF accumulation phase, and who was WYCKOFF? So first of all, we're going to find out who was Richard WYCKOFF. WYCKOFF was an early 20th century pioneer in the technical approach to study the stock market. At the age of 15, he took a job as a stock runner for a New York brokerage. Mr. WYCKOFF observed numerous retail investors being repeatedly fleeced. Consequently, he dedicated himself instructing the public about the real rules of the game, as played by the large interests of smart money, also known as Bitcoin whales. WYCKOFF had learned about how to identify large operators accumulating and distributing of stocks, with how to keep positions in harmony with these big players. All the fluctuations in the markets and all these various stocks should be studied as if they were a result of a one-man operation. Let us call him the composite man, who in theory sits behind the screen and manipulates the stocks to your disadvantage. If you do not understand the game as he plays it, and to your great profit if you do not understand it. So guys, what is he telling us? He's saying us that we should act accordingly, like there's only one man playing the game in the stock market to accumulate Bitcoin and the WYCKOFF accumulation event. So first we're going to look at this diagram, the WYCKOFF accumulation event. And yes, I think that we're going to see this WYCKOFF accumulation phase on the weekly chart for Bitcoin. So we are first going to look at this diagram to understand what is this WYCKOFF accumulation pattern. And then we're going to go over to the charts of Bitcoin and compare this chart with the weekly chart of Bitcoin. So guys, first we have phase A, where we get this PS, preliminary support, and this is the support after a prolonged down move that we saw in the markets, and then we get the selling climax, the point at which the widening spread and selling pressure usually reaches its climax, and then we're going to see this automatic rally towards the upside, and then the second test where we're going to come all the way back down and form this lower high, and then we can see that we get this pump all the way up, forming this high. And then we get the second test, and yes, in phase B we're going to see this accumulation phase after we saw this relief rally towards the upside, and then we get the second test in phase B, in which the price revisits the area of the selling climax to test the supply and demand. And then we can see that the market turns around and it comes towards the upside to this resistance area, but still forms a lower high. And then we can see that the market goes down until we're going to reach this spring, which normally forms underneath the previous low, and then we're going to see this test of the second retest phase from phase B, and then we're going to see this pump all the way up to the LPS, last point of support, where we could see that we had a lot of support in the previous price movement, until we're going to see the sign of strength, and that we're going to break through this resistance area and then come back down to retest this resistance area, and then we're going to see that the price comes all the way back up. And yes guys, why is this an accumulation phase? Because we are going to see that the markets are trying to outperform all the retail investors, and that in all these areas the whales are accumulating, and when you are selling, the whales are buying. And that most probably we're going to see this WYCKOFF accumulation pattern on the weekly chart for Bitcoin, and that's why we're going to go over to the weekly chart, where we're going to compare this WYCKOFF accumulation diagram with the weekly chart of Bitcoin. And yes guys, over on the weekly chart for Bitcoin, we can see that yes, this diagram lines up perfectly, and I think that we are at the moment at these levels, round about these areas. But let's look at the diagram and compare it with the weekly chart of Bitcoin. We could see that we had this dump, this prolonged dump towards the downside, reaching the PS, the preliminary support, which is all the way up here. And then we saw this relief pump towards the upside, and then we saw this prolonged dump towards the downside, reaching our selling climax, which is round about here. And then we saw this automatic rally reaching to this high, with a second retest round about in these levels. And then we could see that Bitcoin entered phase B, and that we saw this dump all the way towards the downside, forming our low for Bitcoin, which we can see is exactly here in the charts. And then we saw this pump towards the upside, reaching our resistance but forming a lower high, which we can see exactly here. And this is also where we are in this accumulation phase at the moment. And now we could expect that Bitcoin would come all the way back down to these levels, forming the spring underneath the previous low, which is round about here. So we could see a dump for Bitcoin all the way to the levels of 15,000 US dollars. And then we could see that yes, we would get this pump over to these levels, where we get this last point of support exactly in these levels where we had a lot of previous support. And then we could see that yes, we could expect the sign of strength if Bitcoin breaks this major resistance area, which we have round about the levels of 25,000 US dollars. And then we could expect that Bitcoin would retest this resistance, and then we could see that Bitcoin would pump even higher. And yes guys, this is the playbook of the whales, because yes, exactly in these areas the whales are buying and dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, and yes, maybe they will sell in these regions to rebuy in these lows. So guys, this is the plan of the whales and the WYCKOFF accumulation pattern, and I really do believe that we're going to get this short-term dump form a lower low for Bitcoin, and then we're going to see this accumulation phase. And yes guys, we can benefit from this move because yes, we could dollar cost average in these areas all the way towards the downside and really stock up on Bitcoin if we're going to see this retest and form this lower low, because yes, we could expect it afterwards the whales will not sell and that we're going to see a massive pump and the next bull run for Bitcoin. So guys, if you like this video, make sure to smash up the like button and subscribe, and make sure to be for crypto. And if you want to earn passive income, make sure to watch this video exactly now.